Welcome, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2024 Toyota 4Runner. Not only is it one of the best off-road capable SUVs, but it survived the test of time, still proving to be exceedingly reliable and have a cult-like following of enthusiasts. That allows this to be one of the greatest vehicles ever made, and today I'm going to review it for you and also share why it's not perfect, but it is pretty dang good. So we're going to do a walk around, go through the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts to help you decide what do you do with what is probably the last year of the 5th generation 4Runner. Do you buy it? Do you leave it at the lot? Big thanks to Twin Falls Subaru for letting me borrow this slightly used one for the day. I'll link it below if you're interested. Otherwise, let's dive right in with this review. What's new for 2024? Well, not a whole lot. There is the Terra color, that's basically a brown orange on the Pro TRD, and then all of the other trim levels, of which there are 7, jumped up in price by a couple $100s, which is typical and what you should really expect in a modern capitalistic world, because things go up with inflation, but not much else has changed for 2024. And while trying to stay unbiased, I do want to mention that I really appreciate what Toyota has done with the 4Runner. There's not very many old school SUVs that you can buy brand new today. And if you're new to my channel, I used to own a supercharged FJ Cruiser with a very similar 4-liter engine to this. I've also owned 2 Toyota Tacomas, a 2nd gen and a 3rd gen. That was all about 4 years ago when I switched to Subaru as my daily driver, currently having owned an Outback Wilderness Turbo for the last 2 years, but there's still a big place in my heart for Toyota trucks. Which this is still very much a truck in a world full of unibody crossover SUVs. The 4Runner is a body-on-frame, mid-sized SUV with a solid rear axle and independent front suspension. But they're kind of pricey, and you're gonna pay for that because a base model starts about $40,000. A TRD Pro starts at $55,000, and that's before destination and any extra options that you may want on it. But this one is the TRD Sport, so this is the 2nd of the 7 trim levels, starting at about $43,000 before those extra options. And it's literally the 15th year of the 5th generation of the 4Runner, yet somehow Toyota in America still sells 110 up to about 140,000 units of these every single year. And thankfully, they're assembled in Japan. Just listen to the door slam. These are a well-built product, kind of like built Ford tough, except that they're actually reliable. It's Ford. It's Toyota tough. But you're gonna be paying for that, whether you buy a brand new one or you buy a used one, because these have an insane resale value. Unfortunately though, it's still only a 4-star crash test rated vehicle with moderate levels of active and passive safety features. So for being a brand new Toyota SUV, that's kind of a letdown. And if you're wondering, depending on if it's 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive and what options you have, the 4Runner weighs between 4,400 and 4,800 pounds. This one only has a payload capacity though of 880 pounds, which really isn't overly impressive. It can tow about 5,000 pounds. Although I think you're going to be noticing that in the gas mileage department and the power department with what this old V6 has to offer. And then it has 9.6 inches of ground clearance stock, but this has oversized tires and a lift, so you're probably in the 10.5+ inch range. And then depending on how you spec your 4Runner, it either has 373 or 391 gears, seem to be the most common. And then overall, it's about 15.8 feet long, just over 6 feet wide, but just under 6 feet tall bone stock on the sport trim level, with a wheelbase of about 9 feet. So it is pretty planted, pretty stable on the road, and very impressive is a 33-degree approach angle bone stock and 26-degree departure angle, while being able to do a full circle in 37.5 feet. The last things to mention on here, and then we'll hop inside, is the gas tank is located on the driver's side, but it's non-locking. You can always get an aftermarket locking gas cap if you want with a key, but it's a 23-gallon tank. The 4Runner, the way this one's configured before the wheels, tires, and lift, is spec'd to about 16 city, 19 highway. So the best possible max road trip and range you're gonna be is about 437. And then bone stock, this Sport actually came with a smaller 245 60/20 wheel and tire per the sticker on it. But this is now spec'd with the 285 70/17 TRD wheels and BF Goodwrench KO2 tires. And then the key is pretty basic. It just has the lock and lock features and the panic button, but you can leave that in your pocket because it does have proximity key features to lock and unlock the vehicle. The door panel looks very utilitarian, a lot of dark black materials, but overall it's pretty cool, very 4Runner fashion with all your buttons and switches up here. But it is kind of a trippy feeling if you have your elbow or your weenus touching the window when you try to roll it down, so just be careful of where your elbow placement is. Otherwise, you have the upper storage, 2 bottles, and a full-size snack pocket, which I appreciate. A name speaker. Nothing really on the door sill, just a little bit of grip, rubberized mats, old school e-brake, rubberized pedals, hood release. These are the options and how this one is spec'd, and then your lighting stock right here. And then your leather 10-way power adjusted non-heating seats, but you do have TRD stamped into the headrest on this one. And then sitting inside here, the windows don't let a whole lot of light in, especially with how dark the tint is on this one. But it feels like you're in a miniature tank. You have the fake hood scoop bulge right there, looks really good. And overall, it's comfortable. It's easy to find a nice position. I appreciate the 6 o'clock handle. The horn, kind of high pitched. It almost sounds like it came straight out of the Camry. But you have the lighting stock on the left, the wiper stock on the right, cruise control stock just below, typical Toyota fashion of this era. And then let's fire it up. The needles, they don't really dance, but there is a little 4Runner graphic in the center, which is pretty cool. It roars to life. And with the info button on the right side of the wheel, you can see some of those safety features. More information, tire pressure. This does have the tire pressure sensor in the spare, which is cool, although the spare now does not fit. Yeah. And then there is your Toyota screen. It's not the best, but it does okay. You have physical buttons, HVAC throughout, the little Toyota clock up top, some USB plugins, a little bit of storage, and then your manual shifter to go into 4 high, or you could drop it down to neutral and then eventually go into 4 low, and it works on the fly. Otherwise, 2 cup holders. The shifter on this, I really like the 360-degree camera. It's very grainy, it's not the best quality, but hey, at least it's offered. I just wish it had a better front-facing camera for when you're off-roading. Otherwise, you have the button to bring the window up and down. One of the coolest features of the 4Runner, and I wish the Tacoma had that. Then a ginormous center console with a 12-volt and a CD tray. Although I don't see a CD player on this one. Otherwise, auto-dimming mirrors, sunglass holder, garage door openers, your off-road settings and traction control, your basic lighting options. This has an extension, so it doesn't itself pull out. And then just an incandescent light up top. Otherwise, let's turn it off. Let's hop in the back. Sitting behind myself in the 4Runner, you'll notice that the door doesn't open extremely far. Probably only about 60 degrees, I would estimate. Otherwise, the design language looks identical to the front, following the same theme. You have a nice big pocket down here and even the upper tray, which I appreciate. And then the seats do fold down, but kind of awkwardly. I feel like there maybe could have been a better design. These are really thickly bolstered, so I guess that's just a design maybe the Toyota could update in the future. And then there's the typical handle up here, but there's not a B-pillar handle, which I feel like you should have on a truck. But without the seats reclined, I'm 5'11". I have that much room in front of my knees. I have a map pocket, ventilation, some plugins. Again, no heated seats back here. And I have an armrest, which is kind of low, but at least you can fit your arm and the cup holders, which I really appreciate. Otherwise, let's hop out and I'll show you the hatch. The back of the 4Runner, I think, looks really good, especially in the sturdy army green color, which we have today with all the snow out. It's non-power lift. You can see the camera right there, and then the buttons to raise and lower the rear glass. But it's huge back here, and look how wide the proportions are. This one obviously does not have the 3rd row, which you can see where the armrest kind of storage areas would be for that. So it has about 46 cubic feet back here. Drop the seats and you have about 89, which is phenomenal. This is huge for a mid-size SUV. The spare tire is of course underneath the vehicle, so there's nothing underneath the all-weather 4Runner mat right there. And then just some basic tie downs, sunshade position and where you'd extend that to. 12-volt household style outlet, but it's only a 400 watt, and your Toyota bag. So not too bad back here. And then it doesn't actually raise that high above the roof, so you shouldn't have to worry too much if you're already in your garage, as long as your garage isn't too short or, you know, too old of a design. Nothing new on the rear passenger side, same design language. This is of course the 60 split with the child safety tethers on the back, and you still have a map pocket, so either backseat occupant could be the backseat designated driver. And if you're fortunate enough to ride shotgun in the 4Runner, nice big door panel, a named speaker, nothing on the door sill. The backpack doesn't even get electronic controls for the seats, but that's okay. I think it won't complain too much. And then you can see it kind of is like the hard, cheaper, but easy to maintain durable plastics. Kind of a nice accent up there, just below the airbag. Locking glove box, no 12 volt on this one, and it's adequately sized. But let's come around to the front. I'm gonna pop the hood and I'll show you what the GR 4-liter engine looks like. And under the hood is the massive 4-liter V6 engine that makes a whopping 270 horsepower at its peak RPM and 278 foot-pound-feet of twisty torque. But it is heavy. It weighs almost 5,000 pounds with an average driver and then just the base vehicle unloaded, so it doesn't feel exceptionally powerful. That's where that 16 miles per gallon in the city comes in. But something that Toyota did really well, this is kind of a silly thing, but they added the weather stripping to it, kind of like what my 2023 Mazda Miata has. That keeps this engine bay looking like it's never even seen snow or off-road. And we all know that these are a bulletproof engine. This and the 5-speed transmission have a lot of built-in safety mechanisms to monitor it, to filtering clean oil and blocking any debris. So this is likely going to last you 500,000 miles with basic oil changes and other maintenance. Let's drop the hood. Time for my favorite part. I'm going to time travel and teleport you to one of my favorite roads. I'll show you how it drives. I'll show you how it is in the snow. And then we'll do a 0 to 60 on GPS before we meet back here. Initial driving impressions of the TRD Sport 4Runner is that I really like it. But it feels ancient, it feels very old school, and it reminds me so much of my FJ Cruiser. The short windshield with kind of the awkward wiper blade position where it doesn't really cover it. My FJ had 3 wiper blades. This one just doesn't do a very good job of covering it because it's a long, narrow, rectangular windscreen. Visibility, it's not like amazing on the front half of the vehicle. Thankfully the A and B pillars really aren't that wide. But when you look back, there is a lot of glass and you can see out of it pretty well. One of the best features is the roll down window. Why don't more vehicles offer such a thing? That is seriously such a cool little party trick. Get some more airflow in here, especially where this one doesn't have a sunroof, which if you're gonna do some crazy off-roading, you probably don't need a sunroof because that's just another weak point where it can get flexed and maybe cause leakage problems down the road. But overall, I really like the layout in here. It feels solid. It still feels bulletproof. It really feels like a truck that's gonna last for 30 plus years. But these seats aren't that comfortable. This one doesn't have the heated seat option. And although they look good, although there's TRD stamped in the headrests, they're just not that comfortable. Trying to get up to speed. The 4-liter GR engine makes a lot of noise. And for being a body-on-frame SUV, V6, I think it does adequate. You'll see in the 0 to 60, it's actually not that slow. It's not quick, but it's not horribly slow, even at altitude like where I'm at. But it's fun. It feels like you could take this off some serious off-roading, let it do its articulation, and just have a blast with it, knowing that you're never gonna have to worry about anything but how expensive the gas is that you'll be fueling this with. The speakers don't feel very good. At least the base ones that this one comes with, I'm really not impressed with. But my backpack's having a good time. It's strapped in. There are a number of safety features, as you can see here. Blind spot monitoring, especially, that should be included on all vehicles these days, especially when you're in the $40,000+ ballpark. But this wheel feels very familiar to the old Tacomas I used to have, and honestly, I really like it. It's ancient. I've driven a couple hundred new cars by this point. This is way better than a Jeep Wrangler. Probably a similar driving experience to the new Broncos, although it's been probably half a year since I've driven my most recent one of those. But I really like it. I love the 4Runner. I love what it is. I love what it stands for. But it does feel ancient. Let's see how it changes direction at about 20 miles per hour on a slippery road. Pretty smooth, pretty soft. Not a whole lot of body roll and flex in the windshield. And you know what, guys, let's get to the private road and we'll do that 0 to 60. I just want to mention real quick before the 0 to 60 that in two-wheel drive, even on KO2s, which are traditionally a really solid option for an all-terrain aggressive tire, this thing does not do well in two-wheel drive. It's sliding all over the place with the rear wheels pushing you forward rather than the front wheels pulling you like an all-wheel drive vehicle, or when you set up four-wheel drive on this. You're going to be in four-wheel drive a lot, and even conditions like this. I had moved slightly over to help a big truck come on the other side passing me on a kind of narrow highway road like this, and for a few seconds it felt like I was stuck on the side of the road in two-wheel drive. It doesn't do as well as you might think. So you're going to be putting in four-wheel drive a lot. What that means is your 16 city, 19 highway rating is probably going to drop down substantially. This one on its current trip has averaged 14.2 miles, so just keep that in mind. But once you're in four-wheel drive, hi, you are golden. Much different story. Now to the 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the 4Runner, 4 high, traction off, brake rev, let's go. True 0 to 60 came in at 9.07 seconds. Not bad for 3,000 feet of density altitude, so it's down on power about 10%, and that actually felt a little bit quicker than I was expecting. My final thoughts of what is probably the end of the 5th generation 4Runner is I absolutely love it. The seats, they're not comfortable. The gas mileage, quite frankly, sucks. The ride can be a little bit harsh on the road compared to what I'm used to driving, but look at it. It's a Japanese built and assembled Toyota SUV that's extremely capable. It's not going anywhere, assuming the frame doesn't rust out, which you can easily coat that when you get one of these brand new. It's a tank. It's more reliable than most vehicles. It's probably the last vehicle in the world that is sold brand new with a 5-speed transmission, but it's a proven platform. I don't think you can go wrong. And even if you buy one of these and you decide you don't like it, well, guess what? All you wasted is a little bit extra gas money, because the depreciation on these is about as little as they come. This is a fantastic vehicle. Getting to drive this is very nostalgic for me, and it reminds me of my supercharged FJ Cruiser days back in college. So would I buy one of these? I'm not sure. Do I like it though? If I had, you know, a 10-car garage and someone gave me all 10 cars, sure, there'd absolutely be a 4Runner sitting in the garage. But drive other manufacturers, drive other models. If you're not actually going to use this for its purpose-built purposes, there's a lot of trade-offs. But is it cool? Yeah. Could a pavement princess around? Absolutely. Anyways, guys, if you got any benefit from this video, please consider liking my video. That's all I ask. Subscribe if you want to watch more. I post a couple times a week. Otherwise, I wish you the best in your decision-making process. And thanks for sticking around. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.